The restoration of Peter is an incident described in John chapter 21 of the New Testament, in which Jesus appeared to his disciples after his resurrection, and spoke to Peter in particular. Jesus restored Peter to fellowship after Peter had previously denied him, and told Peter to feed Jesus' sheep. Background: Jesus' resurrection. According to the New Testament, Jesus rose from the dead and appeared to his disciples. The Gospel of John records a number of such appearances: to Mary Magdalene, to the disciples not including Thomas, and then to the disciples including Thomas. This episode is thus part of the fourth resurrection appearance in John's Gospel. Peter's denial. All four Gospels record Peter's denial of Jesus, and all of the Synoptic Gospels record how Peter wept bitterly after the rooster crowed. John omits this detail, but he is unique in describing the restoration scene between Jesus and Peter. Jesus' words in Mark chapter 16 verse 7, however, are often thought to carry the message of Peter's restoration. But go, tell his disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. Single quote. Paul Barnett notes that Jesus' approach to Peter in John chapter 21 is both forgiving and stern. Meeting by the sea. In John chapter 21, Peter goes fishing with 6 other disciples. They do not catch any fish all night, but in the morning Jesus meets them, and tells them to throw the net on the other side of the boat. When they do, there is a miraculous catch of 153 fish. Jesus and his disciples have breakfast on the shore. Jesus prepares the breakfast, including a charcoal fire. Peter also stood near a charcoal fire when he denied Jesus. After they finish eating, Jesus speaks particularly to Peter. Jesus' threefold charge to Peter. Comparison with Peter's denial. Earlier Peter had denied Jesus 3 times. Now, in response to Jesus' questioning, Peter affirms his love for Jesus 3 times. William Hendrickson notes some other correspondences between this episode and that of Peter's denial. For example, it is at a charcoal fire where Peter first denied Jesus, and now is asked to confess his love for his master. Ben Witherington 3 suggests that John has the threefold restoration take place in a setting similar to where the threefold denial did. It's like revisiting the scene of the crime, only this time getting it right. Do you love me more than these? Jesus asks Peter, do you love me more than these? The Greek text is ambiguous as to what the these refers to, and D.A. Carson notes that there are 3 possibilities. Do you love me more than you love these disciples? Do you love me more than you love this fishing gear? Do you love me more than these other disciples do? Carson himself chooses the third option. 2 words used for love. The dialogue between Jesus and Peter contains 2 different words for love, which some, but not all, commentators deem to be of exegetical significance. The words are agapao and phileo. The dialogue proceeds as follows. Jesus asked, do you agapao me? Peter replied, I phileo you. Jesus asked, do you agapao me? Peter replied, I phileo you. Jesus asked, do you phileo me? Peter replied, I phileo you. This is brought out in the 1984 edition of the NIV, which renders agapao as truly love, and phileo as love. Ben Witherington 3 suggests that this indicates Jesus' gracious condescension to the level that Peter was prepared to respond at this juncture. William Hendrickson argues that in his third question, Jesus is calling into question even Peter's subjective attachment and affection, and that is why it says Peter was grieved because he said to him this 3rd time. Other commentators, such as D.A. Carson, reject the idea of a distinction between the meaning of the 2 words. Peter appointed as shepherd. In response to Peter's 3 affirmations of love for him, Jesus gives Peter 3 commands. Feed my lambs, take care of my sheep, feed my sheep. Jesus is recommissioning Peter as an apostle and leader in the church. Sheep is a common metaphor in the New Testament to refer to the people of God. This is the origin of the word pastor, which means shepherd. The 1913 Catholic Encyclopedia argues that the title Vicar of Christ, given to the Pope, is founded on these words of Jesus, by which he constituted the Prince of the Apostles guardian of his entire flock in his own place, thus making him his vicar and fulfilling the promise made in Matthew chapter 16 verses 18 to 19. D.A. Carson, however, argues that neither founding preeminence nor comparative authority is in view in this passage. Writing from an Orthodox perspective, Victor Potapov argues that the word feed does not signify the supreme authority of pastorship, but simply the authority and responsibilities of pastorship proper to all the apostles and their successors. Jesus' prediction of Peter's death. Jesus then describes Peter's future to him, and says, "Someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." The narrator interprets this as referring to Peter's martyrdom. According to a tradition found in the apocryphal Acts of Peter, Peter was crucified upside down.